students. Welcome back. I'm so glad to have you here once more. Our previous class seemed to gain a lot of fanfare, and I'm seeing a couple more people than we did before. Particularly our beloved student, Kyle. Yes, it looks like Kyle's brought a friend. Kyle, would you mind telling us who your friend is? Chad. Okay, wonderful. And you boys are going to behave today? Okay, good. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So, today, everyone, we are going to be talking very briefly about different eye examinations and how to perform them. So, eye examinations are generally used for those practicing ophthalmology or optometry, of course, for people who conduct our eye exams for a living and determine if we need glasses or contacts, things like that. However, in other points of medicine, you may need to conduct some tests. For example, if you are a paramedic and are dealing with someone who is quite disoriented and you need to make sure that they're, all there perhaps, then you may use some tests that require the eyes. Now, before we begin, does anyone have any idea of what kind of tests we're going to be discussing today? Okay, Kyle, we were off to such a great start. I know you want to help, but looking at boobs, while it may be enjoyable for the most of us, that's not really the appropriate item that we're going to be looking at today. Yes, I know, that's much to my dismay as well. But thank you for your input, Kyle. Now, we're going to be going over 5 different tests today. And these tests are going to help us just very briefly get an idea of our patient's eye health, and it will help us determine if we need to look closer, refer them to perhaps an ophthalmologist, or otherwise key in on different conditions that may be present. So, typically, we would, of course, before beginning these examinations, sanitize our hands for everybody's sake as well as ours. Now, although we generally use gloves in most medical examinations, we are not going to be touching our patient very much, so we can skip the glove part, save for the physical bits of it. And it may help, though, for the eye test that you are wearing gloves, so really it's up to you. For the tools that we are going to be using today, all we really need is ourselves and a flashlight. This particular one has our pupil gauge, but otherwise, what's more important is that we have a light. Now, of course, when you start these examinations, we're going to be conducting a medical history, and in our medical histories, we're going to be specifically noting certain conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, sickle cell anemia, certain medical diseases that also affect the way our eyes operate. Now, I could outline all of these little tests, but I would prefer to actually show y'all in kind of a real time of what they're supposed to look like. So if I could have somebody from our audience come down and I can conduct the tests on you specifically, all in the name of science, of course. Okay, looking. How about you? Yes, of course. I won't bite, I promise. Okay. You want to come sit or stand right in front of me? Okay. So we're going to conduct this examination as if our patient is showing absolutely no medical history of any eye disease, any diabetes, any circulatory problems, nothing out of the ordinary. Okay? We are also going to ask if the patient wears contact lenses or glasses, as we will need them to have these on for part of the examination. Now, we have already determined our medical history, so then we can move on to the physical examination. Now, as I said before, we may want gloves for this examination, and I will be putting some on for you. Now we just need to double check that we have permission from our patient to examine them and touch them, of course. Do you mind if I examine your eyes and touch you around your eyes? Okay, thank you. So I have my handy dandy light here. And what I'm going to be doing is first inspecting the eyes for any obvious abnormalities or any ptosis. And it looks like you are normal on that front. Another little examination we need to do is I'm going to have you look upwards and I'm going to pull the eyelid down and I'm going to be inspecting the conjunctiva for any signs of irritation, dryness, infection. Okay, you can put that eye down. Now I'm going to have you look up again. Okay. Alright. So that's all normal. Wonderful. Now I'm going to have you look down, rather, and I'm going to look at the upper eyelid there. And the other. Okay, great. Yes, the skin is clear, pink, moist. We're all good there. Now, our last little bit from the physical examination is I want to look into the whites of your eyes, also known as the sclera. Now, what I'm looking for is any irritants or any jaundice, any color that isn't normal. Okay, so I'm just going to shine the light in your eyes and look. Okay. Alright, and the other. Okay, your sclera is clear and white. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, wonderful. Now we're going to be moving on to a brief synopsis on our visual acuity tests. Now, the visual acuity test, if you get your eyes examined quite often, if you're blind as a bat, such as I am, then you may know this chart quite well. This is known as a Snellen chart. And the Snellen chart tests how far you can see, essentially. So, a normal person's sight, they can read 20/20, which is essentially what a normal person would see at 20 feet is what you can also clearly see at 20 feet. Now, if you could only see, for example, 20/50, then you are seeing at 50 feet, or you are seeing at 20 feet what a normal person would see at 50 feet. So your eyes are much less acute than a normal person's. So these tests are conducted by having your patient read generally from top to bottom as far as they can go. With each letter, you can do this either with both eyes or have one eye covered and then the other. It is more helpful to, of course, test each eye, so you may want to do all together, then the left eye, then the right. So for the purpose of this, I'm not going to have you read my Snellen chart, as we need to have it back much farther. That's just a little brief explanation on that. So again, a normal person's visual acuity is 20/20. However, if you are in a country that uses the metric system, this may be denoted as a 6/6. More, you can see 6 meters out of 6 meters rather than feet. Okay. Now we're going to be testing pupil function. So there is a mnemonic that can help you remember the pupil function. And this is PERRLA, and in parentheses D+C. PERRLA, D and C, stands for pupils equal and round, reactive to light and accommodation, direct and consensual. Now, first we're looking for equal and round. Do you mind if I shine this light in your eye and just make sure that they're equal? Okay. Right, I'm going to turn off the light and make sure that they are still equal. Okay, wonderful. So our patient's pupils are normal size, and to determine what size they are, you can look on your gauge here and note the size. Our next little bit of that, reactive to light and accommodation, is I'm going to do a direct and consensual test as well as a swinging light test. So we're first going to make sure that when we shine our light into the patient's eyes, that they are reacting to the light. And you kind of want to do this at an oblique angle rather than just straight on. So for our direct and consensual response tests, we're going to be making sure that our pupils constrict when there is light, but also the other pupil is constricting at the same time. So if I were to shine the light into your right eye, your left eye should also constrict as well as your right eye. So we're going to be doing a little direct and consensual test on you, okay? Okay, I'm going to hold my hand right here, and I'm going to look in each eye. I'm going to shine the light directly in the eye. Make sure it constricts for direct. 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 And then looking at the other eye. Consensual. 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 For the other side. Direct. 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 Consensual. 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 Okay. So both of our pupils are reacting to the light, whether it's shined directly into the eye or shined into the other eye, and it's mimicking the other. So our last test for pupil function is going to be the swinging light test. Now for this test, I'm just going to be going back and forth between each eye and swing the flashlight like this. And what I'm testing for is that your pupils will constrict, of course, when the light is hitting them. And as the light moves down and is out of sight, that your pupils start to dilate a little, and then when the light comes back, they constrict again. So I'm just going to do this a few times. I just want you to look at the light. Well, not look at the light, but keep your head still, rather. Okay, you're doing great. Okay, good. Alright, our third eye test is going to be the ocular motility test, which is basically just testing how your eye muscles are working. So, there are 9 cardinal positions for the eye muscles to move in. We have 6 eye muscles that govern our eye movement. So, we have our upper left, upper right, right, straight forward, up left, lower, and lower right. So I'm just going to have you move your eyes in the direction that I ask you to, if you don't mind. Okay, thank you. Can you look up for me? Okay, to the right, to the left, and down. Okay, upper left, upper right, lower left, and lower right. Okay, great. Now can you do that once more? Look up, look down, look left, look right, look upper left, upper right, lower left, and lower right. Wonderful. So more commonly, we're going to be testing our eye movements like that using the H test. test, which is just we have our patient focus on our finger and track our finger without moving their head. And then we watch them as they look at our finger. And make sure that there's no lag. Just follow my finger. Okay, great. Okay. The next test we do to determine ocular motility is a little thing that we're going to watch for called pursuits and saccades. So pursuits are going to be your smooth eye movements that move back and forth. And saccades are like your eyes jumping from one target to another. So first, I'm just going to, again, do that H test, but this time I'm specifically looking for the smoothness of the eye movements. So start here. Don't move your head, just track my fingers, okay? Just watch my fingers. You're doing great. Doing great. Okay, all eye movements are smooth without jerkiness or lagging. Okay, great. And now for pursuits, I'm going to have you flit your eyes back and forth from this finger to this finger. Okay, so I just want you to look very quickly without moving your head, of course. So just look very quickly between each finger, okay? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. Okay, great. Our last visual test is going to be our visual field test, and this is going to be testing our peripheral vision for conditions like glaucoma, perhaps a tumor, other neurological disorders. So in this test, I could just, do some finger wiggling here and there and just see if you can see it. But we're going to be a little more sophisticated, and I'm going to have you cover your eye that is opposite this one. So I'm covering my right, you would cover your left. So I will have you cover your eye, and I'm going to be bringing in my fingers. And when you see them, just let me know. You can say yes. Okay. So cover your eye. Great. Okay, and now I'm going to be bringing in my fingers. You just let me know when you see them. Great. 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 Okay. Just let me know when you see them. Great. Great. Wonderful. Great. Okay, great. Now we're gonna switch hands, switch the other eye, okay? Alright, just let me know when you see my fingers come in. Great. 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 Okay. Good. 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 Great. Wonderful. Okay. So then we can also, if you wish, you can just pull in whenever you see my finger, let me know. Good. our 5 eye tests are physical examination, visual acuity, pupil function, ocular motility, and our visual field tests. So does anyone have any questions or wish to see any of the tests reperformed? Okay. Yes, good question. So we did our H test with there we go. We did our H test with our fingers, of course, but you can also use a light. So I'm going to have our patient track the light this time. So shine this light. I just want you to follow the light using your eyes only and not your head. Follow the light. Follow the light. Okay, very good. Okay, so that concludes our testing then, and I hope that you all took very good notes because this will be on the test next week, of course. Yes, I didn't suddenly change my mind. Alright, it was wonderful having you all, and I hope you learned something very valuable. So, until next time, I'll see y'all later. I would like to give a big round of applause to Kyle, who has been sitting very quietly, albeit on his phone. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much time you spend on there, Kyle, you're never going to find a Tinder date. Yeah, it's all love, brother. Okay, so thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.